Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rupali Ramesh Patil. I'm founder and chief impact officer of Global Synergizers. Uh, as you can see, I'm very happy to be here in a Pride event, and I will be speaking today on enhancing economic empowerment of sexual and gender minorities through social innovation and CSR. Now, these are the two concepts which are very important in current scenario, because if we want to change something, this is where we are supposed to be, and this is where we should start, is what I strongly believe in. I come with a decade old experience of social impact sector. I'll just take a small peek into how do we define sexual and gender minorities. So a group of individuals that refuses to identify with the traditional social categories of man or woman or male and female. And due to this non-traditional conformity of gender identity, they face a lot of social marginalization and oppression worldwide. Now, due to these reasons, we can see that nowadays there's a rise in hate crimes, and they these are happening everywhere. So there is physical, verbal abuse, discriminatory criminal laws, restriction on civil liberties, oppressive social sanctions. And while this is happening even in India, you can see that sometimes they have to struggle, majority of times, actually not sometimes, I apologize for that, but majority of time they have to struggle for their basic human rights, like right to freedom, right to leave, right to adopt, right to healthcare, right to education. I mean, every other right you can add to, and that right is something which is denied to them. And when we talk about this group, we are referring to the kind of barriers they face when they have to access the equal opportunities, whether from something which is basic as education to getting a job, a livelihood on which they can sustain themselves. So, having understood this definition, today I'm going to focus on two concepts: social innovation and corporate social responsibility. Let's first look into social innovation. So, how do you define innovation? So, innovation for that matter is anything which you do in a creative manner, and is something new. But when is it a social innovation? It is a social innovation when it addresses the social problem. And it could be any problem. It could be the problem which is related to LGBTQ community. It could be a problem which is related to women. It could be a problem which is related to specially challenged people, physically challenged people. So any complex social problem you take, and when you apply a creative side to it and find a solution for it, that is basically a social innovation. Just like a social enterprise which focuses and works only on social innovation. Now, there are a lot of surveys out there, and in fact, even I was surprised when I was reading more and more about it. But there is an amount of efforts which has went into expressing how countries which are endowed with better human capital can innovate more. And it makes a lot of sense, isn't it? If you are free in mind, if you have basic right to access education and resources, whether it's financial, technological, any kind, you are in a better position to innovate. Now, the social inclusion of LGBTQ people can promote this national innovative capacity. Imagine on a table there is not a fair seat for everyone. Then how are you supposed to grow as a country, as a world, as a nation, right? So, social inclusion of LGBTQ people may promote national innovative capacity by strengthening human capital accumulation within an economy. In fact, there is a World Bank study which says on a macro level, when this exclusion is aggregated and the losses are estimated, the impact on country's GDP is significant in India, as much as 31 billion USD. That is what is lost in 1 year alone. Now, imagine the kind of number of years we have been on planet. And even after understanding this, still there are other side of the survey which shows that survey conducted in European countries revealed that approximately 90% of LGBT individuals have witnessed negative comments or conduct in schools. 50% of males who have sex with males in Bangladesh and India reported that they have been assaulted or harassed by teachers or other students. And there is a significant increase in dropping out of schools due to this negative impact. Imagine a child who is yet still figuring out with an identity crisis, right? Who's still in that mode, and while they are still exploring themselves, identifying themselves, the kind of social norms which kind of creates an atmosphere where there are people who become mean and who kind of create a situation which becomes very difficult for uh, community to basically even access the education. So when LGBT people are empowered, to contribute to their economies and allowed to benefit from economic gains and redistribution, society can see a stronger economies, even in non-monetary measurement growth when it comes to like a human development. So, for enhancing this economic empowerment of the group, social inclusion and innovation has to come together, and they have to develop new business models, products, services that can provide access to economic opportunities and resources. Now, this will involve creating new partnerships, network that could promote collaboration and knowledge sharing among stakeholders. Now, what are the examples of social innovation? And while I was looking for such social innovation which is specifically related to the community, these were the few which I came across. There might be many, but these were the few which were readily accessible and I could get access to and understand them. There's a GeoShore. Now, it's a travel safety app that provides a neighborhood level LGBTQ plus safety rating category, helping the members of the community understand the likelihood of harm of discrimination against the person or group and level of caution required at location. I'll give you an example over here why GeoShore is so important. While businesses are trying to be more inclusive, diversity and inclusion is coming at a forte. Kochi Metro Rail Limited had recruited transgender person for work. What happened is when they recruited them on the project, these people had a bigger problem identify finding a accommodation in the city, and some who decided to stay back and try to avail the accommodation was so expensive that they had to survive and manage over there, they had to opt for activities which they were not keen on, but they didn't had other option. So imagine how well intended the whole idea was, but because the ecosystem was not supportive and because people who went over there, they were not aware of what could be the problem, they landed in a problem, right? So similarly, Tinder, it is at least to a certain extent, community is more open now, and to a very slightly certain extent, at least publicly, people like to believe and to express that they are open minded enough. But when it comes to, and there are many horror stories of the dating apps, right? So Tinder introduced a functionality that prevent the profiles of those who identify as gay, lesbian, bisexual, queer, or transgender from appearing when the user arrives in a nation where same-sex relationship or acts are still criminalized in an effort to deter harassment or worse. And this is so important, right? Now, why is this happening? Why is Tinder so pro? You can say the leadership is more conscious. At the same time, you have to understand innovation takes place when there is opportunities also, because businesses also thinks about their consumer base, right? And that's what Tinder tried to do over here. So that was a social innovation which benefited the corporation, which benefited the people, the customer base. Now, LGBTQ plus experiment. This is a website that aims to help answer questions about sexuality, gender, and sexual orientation in an open and non-threatening environment. And this is so important, right? Because in initial phases, while whether it's the as it's defined as a third gender, whether it's a third gender, whether it is a woman or a man, in our puberty phase, there are a lot of questions around it, and some of them are addressed. But when it comes to LGBTQ community, it is very difficult to uh, it's very difficult to come out of closet and actually have that kind of conversation to understand what should be done. Recently I saw a video where and it's a famous Instagram influencer, if I'm not wrong. They he basically they express that if there were more access to resources, they could have taken a better decisions in their evolving phase. Now, Empty Closets is again a monitored online community with a forum and a chat room in addition to resources on coming out and sexual health. And these are all social innovation which are very important. Now, the community which is out there to who's listening to me, it's good to see others examples. It's good to know about them. But how do we approach social innovation? And that's very important because when when we understand a problem, we should list down the challenges. Once we have listed down the challenges, we should apply the design thinking principle to come up with innovative solution and approach like-minded individuals or programs. Like for example, the few programs that I know about are: TIS runs a program for transperson on entrepreneurship, Ashoka runs program for change makers for cure inclusion in India, and there might be more such programs. But it is important to take that first step to identify such programs with the help of a digital technology which is available at accessible to us. So that's my take on social innovation. And social innovation is very important because I have been mentoring even startups. I'm associated with an accelerator where I mentor startups on social innovative products, and that's where I see so much happening. And it's time that we, rather than waiting for government to create more open things for us, we identify the solutions for our problems. Now, I'd like to now focus on corporate social responsibility. I'm moving little fast, but I believe the kind of time which is allotted to me, in that I would like to cover majority aspects, and I'll be open to questions and answers. Like you can shoot it on YouTube to me. Uh, mm, okay, I believe there's a time difference, and that's the mode we are going. So that's the best way to get the answers. What is CSR? CSR is a rule. See, corporate social responsibility has always been there. Okay, there are corporations or businesses who believe in growing the society, right? They have been doing corporate social responsibility, their business responsibility, even before the rule came into place. But India is the only country who has developed, basically introduced a law, a rule in 2013 on corporate social responsibility. It has its pluses and it has, I mean, I think it's mostly its pluses because it's mandatory. So there's a huge pool of funds which is available to work on a lot of social challenges. So CSR refers to the ethical and responsible business practices that companies adopt to contribute to sustainable development and positive social impact. Now, this can include initiatives related to environment sustainability, human rights, labor standards, community engagement, uh, women empowerment, and many other issues around it. Now, in India, CSR spending, if you see, towards the welfare of sexual and gender minorities remains negligible in comparison to the needs of the community. And why is it like that? Why do we see that? If I have to state, CSR fund size is somewhere between 16,000 to 24,000 crore. Okay. So why is it happening so? So if you see in section 7 or schedule 7, sorry, in schedule 7, if you see the sections and the sections which you can see supporting the welfare of sexual and gender minority group are eradicating hunger, poverty, and malnutrition, basically promoting healthcare, including preventive healthcare and sanitation, and making available safe drinking water. How is it not applicable to any other community? It is. But here you can see that basically, in schedule 7, at least you can include the SGM community over here. Okay. Second is promoting education, including special education, employment, enhancing vocational skills among children, women, elderly, and differently abled, and livelihood enhancement projects. Again, no mention of SGM. Promoting gender equality, empowering women, setting up homes and hostels for women and orphans, setting up old age homes, daycare centers, and such other facilities for senior citizens, and measures for reducing inequalities faced by socially and economically backward groups. Now, take a pause over here for a second and read this again. I'll hold on to this line. And you will see that there is no direct mention of SGN group that you can see over. You might be aware also about the Sustainable Development Goals, 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are basically have set the target for 2030. To achieve those targets, we have time till 2030. If you go and read those Sustainable Development Goals, those 17 goals, again, you will see they are similarly placed to the causes of sexual and gender minorities as CSR Schedule 7. Though SDGs provide for equitable human rights such as inclusion in education, healthcare, and livelihood as overarching principles, no SDG is dedicated specifically to the welfare of gender and sexual minorities. And they are largely driving the social projects. That should make you think, right? Now, having understood that these are the hurdles, but still there are social programs taking place, and how organizations, basically you all belong to some of you must be working with some of the other organizations, or you will be working with some of the other organizations, and those organizations, how they can contribute through CSR, and how you can approach them to do so. Supporting organization engaged in SGM welfare through direct CSR contribution. So they can reach out to organizations like Periphery, Humsafar Trust, and many other organizations are there similarly, and they can do a direct CSR contribution over there. Second is supporting SGM through general CSR contribution. General CSR contribution should be like, there are other organizations which are working on education project, empowerment project, livelihood project, and the community can be brought into that particular spectrum. Now these are the working directly with the community. There is very little understood and known sometimes, because the kind of dialogue which should be there is missing, and there are more assumptions about the other side. Now, having said that, we need a lot of efforts toward research and empirical studies to identify the needs of the community. It is very important to understand what exactly the community needs, understand that, and then approach it, and CSR can play a role in this. Then supporting change in social perception and improving social inclusion through self-driven initiatives. There are beautiful advertisements made which actually communicate a very good social message and make people think. And in last few years, I have seen some really good advertisements around that, and I'll come back to that one. Differentiated measurement and reporting of CSR impact. It is, if you really want to understand how much of a work is happening in this direction and what is the impact, it is very important to have a specific target oriented measurement of an impact. It is very important to have a dedicated project for the community, and then to measure the impact it has created. Being part of social impact sector, we have been involved in financial inclusion of transgender person, and recently we had designed a program to of a 1 year long, to ensure that we cover various aspects of financial literacy and inclusion through experiential learning for the transgender individuals. So there is a need for creation of such more projects which can help the community. Now, what are the examples of successful CSR initiatives? There's a clothing brand, Levi's, Strauss and Levi's. We all know about Levi's, and they have promised to contribute 100% of their proceeds for their Pride collection to an NGO that works for the advancement of the rights of LGBTQ plus people around the world. Levi's has been doing this for a long period of time now, and they have been a very gender inclusive organization when it comes to job, when it comes to working on the human rights side of the thing, when it comes to creating awareness. Similarly, in Indian context, if you see Kaya Skincare, they have come out with a very beautiful advertisement that creates awareness on acceptance. When you see that advertisement, it is impossible that when you, after seeing that advertisement, your emotions are not moved. Okay, so it's a very good way to grab attentions of people and make them understand what the community needs, how community thinks. Unilever, I believe you must have seen the advertisement of a Vicks ad, which is focusing on the adoption by a transgender person. Now, these are the activities which are very much important, whether part of a CSR initiative or a marketing initiative or a cause marketing initiative, as we call it. It's very important to speak about it out there in loud, catch the attention, and initiate a dialogue. And once the dialogue is initiated, it is important to translate it into policies. But that's a very long road, and we all know that's a very long journey too. So, how do I conclude or how do I actually basically would like to summarize what I have discussed with you today is corporate actors, they have immense potential because they have funds, they have a platform to raise a voice. Okay. And they also have years of government. Having said that, they have a potential to catalyze this transformation through their CSR mandate. But as I have shared with you, our SDGs, whether it is Schedule 7, these policy decisions are not explicitly saying anything. And there is legal and financial risk associated with politically unfavorable stand. Why just politically? There's always a certain group of community which gets upset about having a view which is not aligned with their view. So corporate actors, they carry this risk, but they, and I believe in next few years, considering the generation is becoming more open minded, we can see more positive outcome over there. So corporates must attempt to go beyond this lack of policies and support for a progressive transformation of the society. We can see it in some form where a organization called as periphery, which it works with the community and also tries to get them a good livelihood opportunities. And you can see there is a more open dialogue in big corporates where they are celebrating pride event, and it's not a day long celebration, but they are also and we have been having a dialogue with few corporates where we are trying to see how they are engaging the LGBTQ community, and you can see that they have certain activities planned over there where the community feels more safe, community feels more engaged and more accepted. So corporates have a bigger role to play over here. One, by providing the jobs, by making more gender inclusive. Second is they have the funds and resources to actually work on the human capital development, especially for the LGBTQ community, and that is where they have to come out and start working on it. CSR can play a bigger role over here because CSR brings a huge amount of pool of funds, right? So CSR can influence the development of human capital, and this in turn can influence the innovation and economic empowerment. You cannot have a certain group on a table which is not equally equipped to fight for their rights, to know their rights, or to have resources to take what they want. In conclusion, I will say that enhancing economic empowerment of sexual and gender minority group through social innovation and CSR is not only the right thing to do, but it also makes a good business case. Just look around yourself. By promoting these responsible business practices and developing innovative solutions, we are creating a more equitable and sustainable society. It's a more just society where everyone has opportunity to thrive. And if everybody is thriving, the kind of financial resources which are then available helps businesses thrive. Ecosystem cannot have a component where one group is thriving and other rest of the other groups are not thriving. Then businesses are bound to collapse. Businesses can only grow when all the groups are thriving. And as we continue to work towards this goal, it is important to remember that progress, it may not always be linear or easy, and it has never been. However, by staying committed to our values and working together, we can create a brighter future for all the members of the society, including those who face social and economic challenges. We, as an organization, Global Synergizers, are focusing on working towards the LGBTQ plus community projects, and we are always looking for an opportunity where we can join hands, collaborate, create synergy to do that. And I'll be very happy to address the queries either directly. People can reach out to me on LinkedIn, or they can post the questions on YouTube, and I'll be happy to answer those questions. I'll end with by Zainal Mohali. There is a very beautiful quote. She likes to be known as an activist, but she's an artist too. If I wait for someone else to validate my existence, it will mean that I am shortchanging myself. And that's so beautiful and that's so true. I don't think any of us have to wait for someone else to validate our existence. We exist, and that's the reality. Thank you very much. Happy to be part of you. Thank you so much, and I wish everyone all the best.